Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make steak bites with French onion au jus gravy. So everything you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this, and I got to tell you, this is packed with such flavor. You wouldn't believe what great things come out of this. Just by mixing an au jus sauce up with some French onion soup mix, some beef broth, and some butter with your beef. Now, as far as the beef is concerned, you can use pretty much any kind you want. Even if you get a cheap stew kind that's already cut up for you, it's fine. You're just going to need anywhere from 1.5 pounds to maybe 2 pounds if you're feeding maybe 3 people or so. But just go ahead, if you got a piece like I do, take it and slice it up. We're just basically going to cut it into little cubes in a way, just so there are pieces that are all separated, and we're going to call it beef tips, even if it really isn't. And go ahead and just cut these all up. And once you get done with them, we're just going to basically stack them back on the plate that my meat came off of, because it's just going to give me room to work here. But as you can see, this is just a little over, I'd say, 1.5 pounds. You really could use as much as you want in here, as long as you don't run out of gravy. So I'd say around a little over 2 pounds is the most as you're going to get out of this. But just go ahead, like I'm doing, if you have solid pieces of meat, and cut them up. And that way you just have all of these hunks of meat. Now, mind you, when you cook this, your beef will sometimes cook down a bit, so it really won't be as much as you think. Because if you're looking at it and saying, wow, there's like 2 pounds of beef or whatever, well, once it cooks down, it will get smaller. Especially when you cook it in the gravy for like 20 minutes to get this done, it might cook down a bit. So sometimes it's better to err on having too much than not enough. So work your way through this. Make sure that you have a large pan available, because that's what we're going to use to cook this in. And other than that, really everything you saw at the beginning is what we're going to use. And what's really crazy is you're putting so little into this and you're getting so much out of it, because this has such an amazing gravy at the end that it's just something really wild to eat, because of all that flavor that's coming out of just 2 little mixes going into this as well. Now, mind you, I'm going to serve this over mashed potatoes. It's kind of your choice of how you want to do that. If you want like garlic mashed potatoes, regular, whatever, you probably could serve this over rice or something if you'd prefer that. It really doesn't matter. But I do that just basically because when you serve this over top the mashed potatoes or whatever, you basically have your meal there, unless you wanted to add something to this. I mean, you definitely could have a salad. But once it's all cut up, if you want to add a little bit of steak seasoning to this, it's your choice. I do. You don't have to. It's just something that I add a little bit to, just to give it a little kick of flavor. And it doesn't hurt any. I mean, you really don't need it. So we're going to move on to our skillet. Now, I'm not putting a bunch of oil in here. I'm just using some nonstick cooking spray. Put this on medium-high heat, and we're going to cook in this, because we really don't want this to be oily, messy, whatever. We're just going for a straight-out nice meal here without a lot of grease. So we're going to transfer our beef into this, and what we're going to do is let the temperature come up and cook the beef for about maybe 4 minutes. We just want to start the bottom to actually getting some color to it before we do anything else. And it's just for the fact that I like to get my beef going before I add anything else to it. So go ahead and move it around. If any of your pieces are stuck together, make sure that you separate them. And like I said, cook them for about 4 minutes until you get them to this point. And once we get right about here, this is where it's going to become really kind of fun, because we're going to do all the work in just one run here. And then after this, we're just going to cook it for a while. So that's really the greatest part of this. So we're going to start out with our au jus gravy mix. And we're basically just going to dump the powder right over top of the steak bites. So once you get that in there, it doesn't matter if it's a little clumpy or whatever. As we stir this over time, it will break up. So just make sure that you cover all over top of this. And then after this, we're going to come in with our soup mix. And basically, it's just French onion soup mix. And we're going to go ahead and dump that, as we did the last packet, all over top of this, and just scattered around all the top of it and the sides. Good thing about this is there's so much in the soup mix that it's really wicked, because you get little bits of onion and everything in there and all kinds of seasoning, and that really works well. Now, once we get this in, we just want to move it around a little bit to make sure that, you know, this is kind of adhering to the top of the pieces of beef. And then once we're done with that, we're going to go over top of these and put some butter on it. Basically, you could do anywhere around like 6 to 8 tablespoons of butter. It's just going to help a little bit in the cooking process of this, but it kind of gives a little bit of flavor too. So I kind of like adding this to it. So just distribute them around the top of this. And just make sure they're kind of all over the place, because it really doesn't matter in the end. They're going to melt down and mix in with the whole thing. And then once they're on top of this, you're going to need beef broth. And we're going to go ahead and add at least a cup of this to it. And when we pour it in here, just go around the sides if you want to, just to pour it all around so you don't like knock everything all over the place. And once you get about a cup of this in, we're going to move the pieces of beef back and forth a little bit, just to let a little bit of the liquid get into the center, so that way it'll start mixing with the dry ingredients that have gone down in. And then we're going to get this up to where it's basically coming to a boil. Then we're going to like cook this for about 20 minutes. So we're going to reduce it down to at least medium once it starts to boil. And then after 10 minutes, we're going to come back and we're going to stir this up a little bit. So we're already at the 10 minutes in mine, and this is what it looks like after it's been cooking for 10. And we're going to stir this around. Now, if the au jus stuff has basically clumped together a little bit in the bottom, it's okay. You can stir this out. Just keep moving it around. Break it up with your spatula, whatever you have, because as you keep going with this, it will break up completely. It doesn't stay together. After you like hit it a few times, move it around, especially when you're moving the beef around, you're going to break this up. So once you've got this all stirred and make sure that there's no clumping going on, you don't have a lot of any mess in here, we want to go ahead and put the lid back on and then cook it for the last 10 minutes of that 20-minute cook time. And then after that, we're going to actually remove our lid and we're going to let this cook for about 5 minutes or so without that on. And we're going to stir a little bit, like maybe like every 30 seconds of that last 5 minutes. And then we're going to go ahead and turn it off and let this sit for a second, because as it sits, it'll thicken and your gravy will become really thicker than it is. Now, mind you, if you wanted to make your mashed potatoes, you should be doing that right about now. And see, I've already put mine on my plate. And then basically just spoon this over the top, bring over some gravy, bring over some of the pieces of beef until you get as many as you want on there. And this is just really the most amazing thing to eat if you really love beef and you like a lot of flavor in whatever you're eating. This works out so well, and it has such a great taste just because it has so much in there in this gravy that just kicks it off, and the mashed potatoes work perfectly with it. So I gotta tell you, this is a great meal, and I think you just might like it, and it's just something impressive if you want to serve to somebody that you really like. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.